I thought I had one. I smiled at my reflection in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. She looked lighter, victorious, almost radiant. For the first time in years, I felt like I had finally outplayed him. I remember the exact moment it happened, the email notification chiming softly on my phone while I sat at the kitchen island, sipping coffee from the mug he bought me during one of his apology phases. Transfer complete. I reread the message 3 times just to be sure. The house, the savings, the investment accounts, all of it. Mine. Or so I thought. I laughed out loud, a sharp, breathless sound that startled even me. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, not anymore, but from the thrill of victory. After 15 years of marriage, of swallowing my pride, of playing the dutiful wife while quietly documenting every lie, every affair, every financial manipulation, I had finally won. At least that's what I believed. I met David when I was 26 and thought love was supposed to hurt a little. He was charming in a way that felt safe. Accountant, neat, clean-cut, always saying the right thing in public. People adored him. My parents adored him. Even my friends, the ones who raised eyebrows early on, eventually stopped warning me. "You're lucky," they said. I wasn't. Not really. But luck is easier to fake than happiness. By the 3rd year of our marriage, I learned how to read his silences, how to decode the way his jaw tightened when he lied, how his phone never left his side even in the shower. The first affair nearly broke me. The second taught me survival. By the third, I stopped crying and started planning. I stayed not because I loved him, but because I wanted control. I wanted him to feel what it was like to underestimate someone. The lawyer I hired didn't look impressed when I laid out my evidence. "Financial infidelity counts," she said calmly, flipping through my binder. "But you'll need leverage." Oh, I had leverage. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. I waited. I watched. I documented. When David finally asked for reconciliation, said he wanted to start fresh, I knew the timing was perfect. That was when I suggested something bold. "Let's put everything in my name," I said one evening, swirling wine in my glass like it was casual. "If we're rebuilding trust, full transparency matters." He hesitated, just for a second. Then he smiled. "Of course," he said. "If that makes you feel safe." I didn't notice how easily he agreed. I didn't question why the paperwork moved so fast. I didn't see the quiet satisfaction in his eyes. The day the transfer finalized, I celebrated alone. I wore a red dress to lunch, my power color, and ordered champagne even though it was noon. I imagined the future unfolding effortlessly. Divorce, freedom, financial security. I pictured myself telling him calmly, coldly that I was done, that he no longer had control over my life, my body, my future. I even rehearsed the speech. But when David came home that night, he kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. "You look happy," he said. "I am," I replied. And for once it wasn't a lie. 3 weeks later, I filed for divorce. The look on his face was everything I dreamed it would be: shock, confusion, panic. He begged. He denied. He blamed stress, work, his childhood. I felt nothing. When I told him the assets were already transferred, his lips parted slightly. Then he laughed. Not nervously. Not angrily. He laughed like a man watching someone step into a trap he'd already dismantled. "You really think you won?" he asked quietly. That was the first time my stomach tightened. The first letter from my attorney arrived 2 days later. I read it standing in the hallway, shoes still on, keys dangling from my fingers. "There appears to be a discrepancy." I sat down. Then I read it again. The assets weren't in my name. They were in his mother's. Every account, every property, every dollar, legally transferred months earlier. Before I ever celebrated. Before I ever smiled at that mirror. Before I ever thought I had one. My victory champagne turned to acid in my throat. And suddenly I understood. I hadn't outplayed him. I had been the finale to a game I never knew I was playing. The smile he never lost. The first thing I noticed was how calm he stayed. Not smug. Not cruel. Just calm. David didn't raise his voice when my lawyer called him. He didn't panic when I confronted him in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I toasted my imaginary triumph weeks earlier. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed loosely, listening like I was complaining about a late cable bill. "You knew," I said, my voice cracking despite my effort to keep it steady. "You knew the whole time." He tilted his head slightly, that familiar gesture he used at work when junior staff misunderstood something obvious. "I knew you'd check eventually," he replied. "I didn't know you'd celebrate so loudly." That was the moment something inside me shifted. Not broke, hardened. I slept in the guest room that night, staring at the ceiling fan slicing the darkness into slow, mocking circles. Every memory replayed differently now. Every smile. Every easy signature. Every time he told me to relax about money because he had it handled. He had handled it. Just not for me. By morning, my rage had sharpened into clarity. I wasn't done. His mother, Evelyn Hartman, lived 3 states away in a manicured retirement community where lawns were perfect and secrets were buried deep. She was the kind of woman who wore pearls to the grocery store and corrected waiters with a smile that dared them to disagree. She never liked me. Not openly. That would have been rude. Instead, she specialized in subtle dismissals. "You're very expressive," she once told me at Thanksgiving, glancing at my red lipstick like it offended her personally. I hadn't realized then that she wasn't just judging me. She was measuring me. When I called her, she answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello, dear," she said sweetly. Too sweet. "I need to talk to you about the accounts," I said. No pleasantries. A pause. Barely a second, but long enough. "Oh," she replied. "David said you might call." Of course he had. "I assume you're aware they're in your name," I said. "Yes," she said calmly. "I am." I waited for an explanation. It didn't come. "You don't find that inappropriate?" I asked. She chuckled softly. "Oh, honey, inappropriate is trusting a marriage like a business contract." The line went dead before I could respond. The house stopped feeling like mine after that. Every room echoed differently. The walls felt closer. David moved through the space with ease, humming while he made coffee, whistling as he folded laundry. Acts that felt like deliberate provocations. "You can't just take everything," I snapped one afternoon. "I didn't," he said mildly. "My mother did." "You planned it." "Of course I did." No denial. No shame. "Why?" I demanded. He looked at me, then really looked, and for the first time in years there was no pretense. "Because you were always leaving," he said. "Even when you stayed." I started digging. Not emotionally, strategically. I requested bank statements, property records, trust documents. My lawyer warned me the transfers were airtight, executed legally, timed impeccably. Evelyn had been listed as beneficiary years earlier. David had merely accelerated the process. "He anticipated the divorce," my lawyer said gently. "No," I corrected. "He anticipated me." The realization burned. He hadn't reacted to my strength. He'd prepared for it. What terrified me most wasn't losing the money. It was losing the narrative. Friends stopped calling after David told them his version first. How he'd protected family assets, how I'd become unpredictable, how stress had changed me. I watched my social circle shrink quietly, politely. No dramatic fallout. Just absence. One evening I overheard him on the phone. "Yes, Mom, she's coping," he said. "Better than expected." I stepped into the doorway. He didn't flinch. "She's stronger than you think," he continued, eyes locked on mine. "That's why we had to be careful." That word echoed louder than any insult. I drove to Evelyn's place the next weekend unannounced. She welcomed me like a guest, not a threat. "You look tired," she observed, pouring tea. "You stole my life," I said flatly. She smiled. "I safeguarded my son's future. At my expense." She sipped calmly. "Marriage is a gamble. You lost." I leaned forward. "You raised him to do this." Her eyes hardened, not defensively but proudly. "I raised him not to be destroyed by sentiment," she said. "Something you weaponized." That's when I understood. This wasn't just David's game. It was generational. Driving home, something strange happened. For the first time since the email, since the champagne, since the mirror, I stopped wanting revenge. I wanted truth. Not theirs. Mine. That night, I opened a new folder on my laptop. Not labeled divorce. Not labeled assets. I named it reconstruction. I didn't know yet how I'd rebuild. But I knew one thing with certainty. They believed the game was over. They believed I was defeated. And that belief, that was going to be their mistake. What I found in the fine print. I stopped sleeping. Not the dramatic, tossing and turning kind. The quieter kind, where your body lies still, but your mind paces like a locked animal. Every hour I wasn't asleep, I was thinking, replaying conversations, rereading emails, studying memories the way detectives study crime scenes. Because somewhere in all of this there had to be a crack. David and Evelyn were meticulous, but no one is flawless. And I had one advantage they underestimated. I knew how they thought. I began with the documents. Boxes of paperwork filled the guest room, bank statements, trust summaries, property deeds, retirement plans. I read every line the way a drowning person reads instructions for a life raft. Most of it was airtight, just as my lawyer warned. Evelyn's name appeared everywhere like a watermark. David had moved assets quietly, legally, patiently. Years of preparation hidden beneath the surface of our marriage like steel reinforcement. But then I noticed something strange. The timing. Some transfers didn't align with major life events. Others occurred shortly after arguments, ones he'd claimed were resolved. And one buried deep in a trust amendment dated 8 years earlier, made my pulse spike. A clause. 3 sentences long. So innocuous it almost felt like a joke. I read it again. Then again. Then I printed it and highlighted it in yellow so bright it hurt my eyes. The trust allowed Evelyn full control. Unless the transfer was proven to be executed, in anticipation of marital dissolution, with intent to deprive a spouse of equitable consideration. My hand started shaking. It wasn't a loophole. It was a door. My lawyer had missed it. Or maybe she hadn't thought it applicable. But I had something she didn't. Context. I remembered the night David suggested transferring assets for transparency. The counseling session 2 weeks before that. The emails he'd sent apologizing for his affairs. Admitting guilt. Promising recommitment. I wasn't blindsided. I was baited. And if I could prove that, the door creaked open wider. I started gathering evidence like my life depended on it. Text messages. Calendar entries. Emails he'd forgotten to delete. Then came the receipts, the emotional ones. David had been seeing a therapist alone for months before suggesting joint counseling. I subpoenaed the records. Redacted, yes, but the dates mattered. So did his calendar invites labeled financial review. And then there was the voice memo. I almost missed it. An old backup file from a phone he'd replaced years ago. I kept it out of habit, the way you keep a sweater that no longer fits. His voice filled the room. Calm. Measured. I just need to make sure everything's secure before she realizes she's done, he said. Mom agrees, timing is everything. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding. There it was. Not affection. Not fear. Strategy. The first person I told was my lawyer. She went very still as she listened to the recording. This changes things, she said finally. I exhaled for the first time in weeks. But relief didn't last. Because strategy cuts both ways. David noticed the shift before I said a word. He's always been good at sensing movement, like a predator noticing a change in wind. You seem lighter, he remarked over dinner one night. Do I? I replied evenly. Yes, he said, studying me. Like you've accepted things. I smiled, maybe too convincingly. That's what healing looks like, I said. He nodded slowly, but his eyes narrowed just a fraction. The smile he wore, the one he'd never lost, tightened. 2 days later, Evelyn called. Her tone had changed. Not hostile, not sweet, curious. I hear you've been busy, she said. Just organizing my life, I replied. You always did like details. And you always underestimated how much, I said. Silence. Then quietly, be careful. I laughed softly. That's funny. David said the same thing once. Right before he cheated the first time. The line went dead. Court dates loomed. Friends began reappearing cautiously, like birds returning after a storm. David's version of events started developing inconsistencies. His calm began to fracture at the edges. He asked questions he pretended were casual. Still seeing that lawyer? Why are you requesting old documents? Do you really think dragging this out helps you? I answered none of them directly, because the truth was this. I wasn't fighting for the money anymore. I was fighting for recognition, for the truth to exist publicly, officially, indelibly. The night before our preliminary hearing, David knocked on the guest room door. I didn't answer. He knocked again. You don't want to do this, he said through the wood. My mother will bury you. I stood on the other side, hand resting against the door. You already tried, I said calmly. You just didn't finish the job. Walk away, he urged. You'll never win. I smiled to myself, because for the first time since that champagne toast, I knew something he didn't. His mother spoke first. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not physically, though the air conditioning was aggressive, but emotionally. Cold, like a place where feelings were irrelevant and truth had to wear a suit to be taken seriously. David sat 2 rows ahead of me, spine straight, jaw set. Evelyn sat beside him, hands folded neatly in her lap, pearls resting against a navy blazer that probably cost more than my first car. She didn't look nervous. She looked prepared. And that scared me more than if she had looked afraid. The judge entered. Formalities followed. My lawyer spoke first, methodical, restrained. She outlined the timeline, the counseling sessions, the asset transfers, the suspicious proximity between emotional reconciliation and financial maneuvers. Then she introduced the voice memo. David stiffened. Evelyn didn't. The recording echoed through the courtroom, tinny but unmistakable. I just need to make sure everything's secure before she realizes she's done. Mom agrees, timing is everything. A murmur rippled through the room. I didn't look at David. I watched Evelyn. She inhaled slowly, then adjusted her glasses. No shock, no denial, just calculation. When it was her turn to testify, she rose with the grace of a woman who'd never been told no. She swore the oath without hesitation. Her voice when she spoke was calm and cultured. Yes, she said. My son transferred the assets to me. Yes, she continued. I advised him. The courtroom stilled. Even my lawyer paused, surprised by her candor. I believed then, and I believe now, that marriages based on resentment inevitably dissolve, Evelyn said. I encouraged my son to protect what he built. What we built, my lawyer corrected gently. Evelyn turned her gaze toward me for the first time. You contributed companionship, she said. Not capital. The words sliced deeper than any insult David had ever thrown at me. I took the stand next. My legs felt unsteady, but my voice didn't. I spoke of the affairs, the manipulation, the counseling sessions that gave me hope, and the financial betrayal that followed. I told them about the champagne, about the email, about how I celebrated a victory that never existed. And then I said the thing I hadn't planned to say. I didn't lose money, I said, looking directly at the judge. I lost consent. Every financial decision after those counseling sessions was made under the pretense of reconciliation. I glanced at David. You didn't protect yourself, I said quietly. You ambushed me. David testified last. He tried to be reasonable. He spoke of fear, of feeling cornered, of wanting to ensure stability. But something had changed. He wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. When my lawyer asked why his mother needed to hold every asset, he hesitated. Because she could be trusted, he said. With what? She asked. Silence. The judge recessed. Hours passed like years. When she returned, her expression was unreadable. This court finds that while the transfers were legally executed, she said, they were done in anticipation of marital dissolution with intent to deprive the spouse of equitable consideration. Evelyn's lips tightened. David exhaled sharply. My heart pounded. The trust clause applies, the judge continued. Control of the assets is to be frozen pending equitable redistribution. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just breathed. Outside the courtroom, Evelyn approached me. Up close, I could see the cracks now, fine lines around her mouth, tension in her eyes. You think this is over, she said quietly. No, I replied. I think it's begun. She studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded once. I underestimated you, she admitted. Yes, I said. You did. David didn't speak to me as we left. For the first time since I'd known him, his confidence was gone. And for the first time since the mirror, the champagne, the lie, I felt something better than victory. I felt seen. What I took with me. The settlement took 6 months. Not because the law moved slowly, but because pride does. David fought harder than I expected. Not over numbers, but over meaning. Every negotiation felt like a continuation of our marriage. Him trying to maintain control, me refusing to disappear quietly. In the end, the division was fair. Not generous. Not punitive. Fair. And fairness, I learned, can feel like both relief and grief at the same time. The day I signed the final papers, I didn't celebrate. No champagne. No red dress. No mirror. I wore jeans and a sweater and let the pen feel heavy in my hand. When I finished, the attorney smiled. You did well, she said. I nodded, but what I was thinking was this. I survived something that was designed to erase me. David didn't come to the final meeting. His lawyer said he was unavailable. I didn't ask why. Some part of me already knew. Men like David don't disappear dramatically. They shrink. They retreat into quieter rooms where no one asks difficult questions. Evelyn, however, sent a letter. 3 paragraphs. Impeccably typed. She acknowledged the court's decision without apology. She expressed disappointment, not in the outcome but in her son. I taught him to prepare for loss, but I did not teach him how to live with it. It was the closest thing to remorse I would ever receive. I folded the letter and placed it in the box with the rest of the documents. Then I closed the box. I moved out of the house a month later. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I left behind furniture, dishes, even the guest room where I'd rebuilt myself piece by piece. I took only what felt like mine. Books I loved. Photos I'd taken. The sweater I wore when I discovered the truth. And something else. Perspective. I rented a small apartment downtown. No yard. No guest room. No echoes of an old life clinging to the walls. The first night there, I sat on the floor with takeout and laughed, really laughed, at how quiet it was. No footsteps. No humming. No strategic silences. Just space. People asked if I felt angry. Sometimes. But not the way I expected. Anger no longer lived in my chest. It lived behind me like a memory I could visit without moving back in. What I felt more often was clarity. I had confused winning with worth. I thought taking everything would make me whole again. It didn't. Understanding did. A year later, I ran into David at a coffee shop. He looked older. Not dramatically, just thinner around the edges. We nodded politely. No bitterness. No nostalgia. As I turned to leave, he said my name. "I never thought you'd see through us," he admitted quietly. I met his eyes. "I didn't at first," I said. "That's the part that scares you." He didn't reply. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror. The same one from the beginning. But the woman looking back at me was different now. Not victorious. Not defeated. Just awake. I didn't win the way I imagined. I won something better. My voice. My truth. My future. And this time, I didn't need to celebrate to know it was real.